Experience the life-changing benefits of automated insulin delivery with the T-Slim X2 insulin pump from Tandem Diabetes Care. Snack while you meal prep, doze off on the couch, wear it fashionably or discreetly. You can do it all with the #1 rated automated insulin delivery system according to a DQ&A patient panel. Get started at tandemdiabetes.com. RX only, indicated for patients with type 1 diabetes 6 years and older. Warning, Control-IQ technology should not be used by people under age 6 or who use less than 10 units of insulin per day or who weigh less than 55 pounds. Safety info available at tandemdiabetes.com/safety-info.
You're listening to a CNA podcast.
Welcome back to the Climate Conversations. I'm Kong Man Ting, better known as Biogirl MJ, and I host a science and environment channel on social media called Just Keep Thinking. This is the second episode of a limited series I'm guest hosting called My Green Gig, where I speak to people who are in green jobs and find out what they do in this space. In our last episode, we peeked into what a bird conservationist does, and I must say, recording it was a breeze. And that's also a clue for this week's episode. Today, I'm going to find out what the weatherman does. How do they predict the weather? And what are some of the funniest things they have heard? What I'm particularly excited about is that I am recording this podcast at the Meteorological Service Singapore, also known as MSS office. It's only my second episode and I'm already travelling to places. Wow. Joining me is my friend, Avester Lau, who is an executive meteorologist, aka the weatherman. Welcome, Avester, to the podcast.
Hi.
Hi. Honestly, I don't think many people would ever dream or have the aspirations to become a meteorologist. So what inspired you to become one? Was it like a childhood dream?
So when I was young, I was always fascinated about the natural world. So this of course includes the weather, but it also includes a lot of what we call geophysical hazards, how earthquakes and volcanoes operate, and why all these actually affect us, right? We live in a world where anything that happens in the physical world will actually affect our lives. Right? So because of that, I pursued Earth Sciences from the University of Oxford. And after those 4 years, I started work here as a meteorologist. To me, this job isn't just about coming in on time, clocking in the hours, but it's also about learning on the job. Okay, you see all sorts of different weather phenomena a day. My shifts are all different from each other. The type of weather that we encounter, why it happens, and then how it develops, or how it dissipates, all of it are different each time. I think there's a lot that we don't know yet about Singapore's weather, and something that, as a person on the job, we are still learning every day. Yeah.
Oh, that's the fun part, right?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, I would say like it's a bit like a puzzle. Most of Earth Sciences is really like a puzzle. You sort of have the answer in front of you, which is the weather has occurred. And you want to know exactly why this weather has occurred today, right? If, for example, a thunderstorm came in that we did not forecast the timing or the location accurately, then we want to ask ourselves, why is that the case? We actually do review what has happened and try our best to understand from a theoretical perspective why it has happened.
Oh, that's interesting. So just like you mentioned, right, not a lot of people know exactly what MSS does or even of its existence.
Right.
I mean, they know there's a weather app, someone's doing the weather forecast, but they didn't really like think about who is the one doing it. So besides predicting the weather, can you share what else do you guys do here at MSS?
Right, sure thing. So MSS is Singapore's National Authority on Weather and Climate. Our daily operations include round-the-clock weather services for public as well as other specialized users. For example, we do provide 24/7 weather services to the aviation industry, which will help support safe and efficient flight planning and operations. There are also other key users such as the military, maritime sectors, businesses and public agencies. Now, in addition, MSS monitors the occurrence of transboundary smoke haze, affecting Singapore and the surrounding region. As host to the ASEAN Specialized Meteorological Centre, MSS has responsibilities to monitor and provide early warning of transboundary haze in ASEAN. Although Singapore is largely spared from geophysical hazards, we do monitor their occurrence in the region. This includes earthquakes that could lead to tremors in Singapore and volcanic eruptions where the ash cloud from such eruptions may actually affect flights in the region as well as air quality in Singapore.
So, Avester, please share with us, as a meteorologist in Singapore, what is the best part of your work? Or, like one moment you realize, hey, this is what I'm meant to do.
So what I think that the job really entails is that being a meteorologist is not just being a scientist. it is also in part being a communicator because we know a lot of things about the weather and climate in Singapore. We know the science behind why certain things happen. But if we only share this information in difficult terminology, we'll never be able to get people to understand. So part of the job is really trying to bring about these concepts and educate the public why certain things happen. Why is it raining? Why thunderstorms happen? And it's about really educating people, getting them to know what makes Singapore's weather so special or so different from other countries.
Okay, this is a personal question that I'm just very curious about. If you predict the weather wrongly, does it affect your bonus or not?
Wow.
Or do you have like a climate change mercy card or an excuse card? So like, boss, please don't penalize me.
I think I would say I can't really say for sure. But of course, I think the main question that listeners will want to know is what then happens if we were mistaken, right? I think our first and foremost priority will be to ensure that any rectifications will be made in a timely manner such that we can get the correct information out as soon as possible, because there are lots of people that I understand will rely on our weather forecast, right? If a mistake happens, we fix it and we do our best to fix it quickly.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. You rectify it as quickly as possible.
So the weather forecast itself is dynamic. If we're not publishing something once a day and then being done with it, the weather forecast will be reviewed multiple times throughout the day, and the weather forecast needs to meet the expectations of the person on duty. So let me give you an example. So let's say I forecast afternoon thundery showers. If I was on duty, what I would do then is to go outside or look at the cameras that we have, and we study how fast these cumulus clouds grow.
Okay.
At around 10 a.m. or 11 a.m., I would expect to see puffy cumulus clouds. Okay, this will indicate that it's a warm day, and of course, convection can occur.
Okay.
At around 1 p.m. or 2 p.m., we'll start to see these cumulus clouds grow vertically
Okay.
to form the towers. And if they do that, then it's a good sign that maybe around 4 p.m., we can get the afternoon thundery showers that were forecast. And if they don't happen, then we will have to revise the forecast. Perhaps it's just a partly cloudy day after all, and no thunderstorms are expected. And so we ask ourselves, based on all the available data, and we have a network of all of these stations around Singapore with over like 60 of these automated weather stations, and we get data from them every few minutes. The wind direction, rainfall, humidity, temperature. And we use all of this information to make a decision. So the weather forecast, even though it may not change, the forecasters on duty are always actively thinking about it. That's why we have confidence in our own weather forecast.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of work just to predict you know, in the next 6 hours what's going to happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thought and effort to put into it.
And I think something that a lot of people do think about, a lot of the questions that are asked to me when people come and visit our office, is that they think that the duty personnel simply sits down and copies and pastes word for word from some computer model, right? We run computer simulations of the weather forecast, and we use that as a guidance. We don't copy word for word. Of course, we use it as guidance and based on the observations and of course our experience. A lot of times, the experience matters way more than many of these computer simulations. And it is a fact that most of the time the computer simulations disagree with other simulations. So at the end of the day, it's very difficult to trust certain computer models. I would say experience as well as a keen eye for observations plays a much bigger role in the work that we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just like cooking. You can follow a recipe, but a real cook knows how to cook.
Yeah, you have to make sure that the food is actually cooking on time and in the right way you want it. And if it doesn't happen, then you need to cut off the fire or do something else.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for all the work that you guys do. I did not know that. All right, so now let's get into this segment called Bust the Myths. I have been planning this segment for a long time because I think there are quite a few misconceptions that the public has with regards to the weather and climate of Singapore. And sometimes this can lead to funny comments or even requests being made to do the impossible. So right now, I'm going to ask you 3 statements that people would often say or ask about your work, and this is your chance to clarify them once and for all.
Okay.
So Avester, are you ready to clear the air?
Wow. Yeah, I get it.
Thank you. All right. Number 1. A meteorologist's job is boring because there are no big changes with our weather in Singapore. Like, it's always the same, so...
Yeah,
It's
so
boring.
I think upfront, it can look as if the weather is the same every day, right? We get a lot of rain in Singapore, Singapore being one of the rainiest cities in the world. But the thing is, the types of rainfall that we get can be very different. We also have a lot of other occasional events, for example, water spouts. Earlier this year, there was talk of a land spout in the Changi area. And of course, 2 years ago, there was this infamous lightning strike that sort of struck a manhole. And I was actually on shift that day and I have received reports about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there are all these like little variations and interesting events that actually do occur. And it's our job to forecast for them as well as to learn why they occur.
Right, that's definitely not boring at all. And we're going to get to some of the points that you mentioned just now. All right, next myth that we're going to talk about. The second myth is that whenever I see lightning, that means it will definitely rain. Is that true?
So this is a common misconception and it's not true. Lightning is itself an electric discharge from a thunderstorm, but it can occur, and our studies have shown that it can occur up to about 6 kilometers away from the parent thunderstorm cloud.
Oh,
Right, and yeah, it is quite far. And it is possible to be struck by lightning when the sky above is relatively clear. And this is referred to as a bolt from the blue. Like, you know the English phrase, bolt from the blue?
no, but okay.
Oh, yeah, so this is where that phrase comes from.
Oh, okay.
Right,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
So
Wow.
yeah, so this is why I would say it's important to heed the weather forecasts that we have published on the My ENV app and take appropriate precautions when there is lightning risk, even though the sky above is relatively clear and you don't see the grey, dark clouds. So if you do see lightning forecast, then you should take shelter indoors and stay away from trees and water bodies.
Okay, yes, everyone, please listen to the warning forecast. Okay, we are just trying to protect you. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, for the third myth, on special occasions like right before National Day, the weather agency secretly does cloud seeding, so it's not a washout.
Okay.
My parents talk about it all the time.
My
I
goodness.
swear.
Okay. All right. So we do get this question a lot. And I'd like to clear the air, as you have said. Singapore does not engage in cloud seeding. We have not done so and we do not intend to. This is for a few reasons. Okay, before I say first, I should actually explain what cloud seeding is. It's the process of artificially inducing rain by implanting clouds with suitable particles that allow the clouds to form. Right? We call this process cloud condensation. Okay. Now, the process cannot form clouds out of nothing. It requires existing clouds that are deep enough to amplify and form larger clouds. Okay. So some of the issues for cloud seeding, in times of drier weather, there will not be suitable clouds to kickstart this process.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And Singapore does not have a large land area. And the winds above us in the atmosphere, they are quite variable in terms of direction and speed. Sometimes the winds are weak. Sometimes the winds are really strong. Okay. This means that any rain that is induced from a cloud seeding process is unlikely to fall over us. Yeah. There have been advancements in cloud seeding over the years, yes, but it's not universally considered an established technology. Right. So I think if you put all these three reasons combined, right, Singapore does not engage in cloud seeding and we have no plans to do so.
Okay, so from what I've gathered so far, to simply put it across, your work is easier said than done, right? In fact, I think it's getting increasingly more challenging because of erratic weather patterns. And we've had more flash floods recently. And even in May, our temperature had hit a 40-year record high of 37 degrees Celsius. These phenomena have a correlation to climate change. So how has climate change affected your work and your weather predictions?
So climate change, it's hard to conclusively assign climate change as the reason for many of the phenomena that we've seen. Because for us to conclusively prove climate change exists, we need decades worth of data. And our scientists at the Centre for Climate Research Singapore have been actively studying these using all the data that we have. That being said, I think people nowadays have taken a lot of notice about all these weather phenomena that you have described. And it's good that people are taking an interest in weather because it's something that affects us on a daily basis. As for my work, I would say that yes, it does feel like we've been breaking a lot of records in terms of temperature, in terms of maybe amount of rainfall, such as maybe flash floods. I do remember in August 2021, we have had quite a few flash flood incidents in the span of a month. So it does make the work more challenging. I don't actively try to label it as climate change, although at the back of my head, I am aware that conventional wisdom tells me climate change means that more drastic or more intense phenomena will occur at a more frequent rate. But on a day-to-day weather forecasting, weather itself is a very variable.
Hello, my name is Steve Lai,
And I'm Teresa Tang, and we are the hosts of CNA Correspondent.
a podcast that takes you to the heart of the work our correspondents do across the globe.
From China's COVID response to the childcare center massacre in Thailand.
And from the fall of Najib Razak to the rise of Anwar Ibrahim as Malaysia's Prime Minister.
We speak to the people at the reporting front lines.
So if you want to know how the biggest global stories unfold, make sure you follow or subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, listening to you is only one part of understanding your job. As the saying goes, seeing is believing. And since we are literally at the MSS office, can I have a tour, please? I've always wondered what your office looks like.
Yeah, sure thing. And I hope that the listeners will also enjoy themselves when listening to you talk about the tour.
All right, let's go. Wow, I see a typical office setting, but instead of like replying emails on the screen, it's a lot of maps. Really a lot of maps. It's like, those movie scenes where the president is trying to decide on something.
Like some sort of command room from a
Correct, command room.
some sort of bunker. Right, so I guess you can maybe start by telling me which computer screen you want to look at first.
This one got something blinking.
Yeah.
There's a dot on the land and it's blinking. What's happening?
So for this one, MSS does monitoring work for many of the natural hazards, geophysical hazards that occur around Singapore.
Okay.
So Singapore is on the Pacific Ring of Fire. Right? So that means that around us, there are volcanoes.
So
well.
dots are volcanoes?
For this one, the dots are earthquakes.
Okay,
because
okay.
earthquakes are more likely to occur at tectonic plate boundaries.
Right.
And if there's an earthquake above 6.0, we will actually have to send out a notification to the MyENV app.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yes.
interestingly enough, when the public feels tremors, they often call the police. I'm not actually sure why, but I don't think that's the right thing to do. Instead, we do send out the notifications so that the public does not panic when they feel such tremors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. And the one that we use to observe haze would be this one over here.
Okay.
Right.
Like
on
green,
this-
blue, and
green, blue, and
white.
a bit of yellow.
Yeah.
So on this false color image, the yellow colors are the ones that represent either low-lying clouds or haze.
Okay.
So we don't really know, but what we can do is use ground information to corroborate that, such as any photographs or other information on the ground through social media, as well as actually studying it very closely. Because if it was cloud, it will appear and disappear throughout the day.
Okay.
But if it's a smoke plume, it will be a consistent plume of smoke coming
Right.
out from the same spot throughout the entire day. Smoke haze is pretty hard to find, yeah.
Is there any model like relating to predicting the weather?
That will be over there, lor. Yeah.
Oh, hello. Are you an intern or?
Are you intern? Oh my god! Sorry for your demotion.
Oh, sorry. You look very young and youthful, that's why.
Oh, that's a good sign, right? So this
Okay.
is Gabriel. Gabriel is doing public weather forecasting for today. So first and foremost, his job is to keep a lookout for these observations throughout the day. So over here, this is a wind profiler. It shows you the wind from a vertical point of view, so from the ground up at this location. Information keeps coming in every few minutes.
The wind profile is actually another screen below the usual desktop screen.
Yeah, I
There's a
think-
lot of screens here. Wow.
Yeah, that's because we have to keep an eye out on a lot of observations at the same time. Yeah. So apart from the wind profiler, actually another way to get vertical observation is through the balloon. We launch a weather balloon.
so fun.
Yeah, at the Tai Seng area.
You might get people rushing to Tai Seng right now.
No, twice a day.
Okay.
Every day. Yeah. So that's also another way you can get observations of the wind and other forecasting parameters above the surface. So over here, this is to look out for lightning. So we have a network of lightning detectors across Singapore.
Okay.
When cloud to cloud or cloud to ground lightning occurs, it will triangulate the position of the lightning for us. Right? And we can then make an assessment, okay, if there's lightning, there has to be a cumulonimbus cloud here.
Okay,
And then we
okay.
can use that to really determine how much or how intense the rainfall would be. Okay, sometimes lightning can occur far away from rain. So to us, this is also an important indicator to send out certain warnings or ensure that the forecast is going on track.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing like different circles in different parts of Singapore.
Yeah. So then this is just a camera. We do keep a lookout for the areas around us. And on top of that, I think the most important one will be the radar. So I'll just show you what the radar is, and I'm sure that listeners at home will have
It
interacted.
is right at...
Yeah.
MSS website. Oh,
Yeah.
I use this very often.
Yeah, so you're right, because this is actually the feature that most people would definitely have interacted with when you open the MyENV app or the MSS website. This is one of the first things that you see.
Which is the rain cloud radar.
Yes, it's a picture of the intensity of rain across Singapore and the surrounding region. Red and purple colors are intense rain. Blue and green are lighter intensities of rain. And by scrolling through the different timestamps, you can see how the rain could have built up or developed and then dissipated over time, which direction the rain is going. And of course, that will really help people plan activities over the next couple of hours or so.
Well, I think, Avester, you have shared a lot about the work that you do and
Right.
how significant it is, especially since weather is something, that everyone can feel, its effects, and it has real devastating impacts on livelihoods, especially in other countries as well. So
Right.
your job is really important. And thank you so much for giving us a glimpse of what you do.
Okay.
And also for giving me a tour at MSS. It's been really an eye-opening experience for me. And thanks to everyone for tuning in as well. I hope you have enjoyed this episode, and do remember to like and subscribe to this podcast so that you will know when a new episode drops. Leave us a message on Spotify or Apple Podcasts to let us know what you think. The team behind this podcast is Sai Ye Win, Jacqueline Chan, Joanne Chan, Tiffany Ang, and Crispina Robert. Once again, I am Kong Man Jing, signing off.